All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we're making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Yeah.
All right. What is up, everybody? Monday night. Welcome to a special episode of Bring It. We are here to celebrate and crown the world champions from Dub Nation. Jonathan K., the president of the Dub Nation fan club.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're basically going to wrap up the NBA season, talk about the finals, talk about what happened, and there's been this top 10 discussion. We're going to talk all about that. So, Jonathan, thanks for coming in once again, man. Good to have you. What's going on, brother?
Oh, man. Anytime, Yoel. I'm ready to go. I'm ready.
You have been pumped all weekend. Of course, one of the OGs of the network, Ray, is back in the house. What's up, Ray? Good to see you again.
What's up, man? Good to be back. Baseball season came in, early in here in Florida. So, my son played baseball, and then I helped coach pitch baseball. So, getting back into the swing of things now.
Cool. Very, very, very cool. It's always good to have Ray here. Well, basically, the finals ended in 6 games. It was 2-2 going into last week, and everyone was kind of like, well, what's going to happen? Is Steph going to play well? And Steph didn't play that well in game 5, but he was angry. He was pissed, comes back in game 6, and the Warriors basically just said, all right, look, this is ours. This is our chip. This is what we're doing. So, Jonathan, game 6 was kind of a weird game because, the Celtics kind of almost caught up, but they didn't. But I want to go back to game 5 for a minute because I think game 5 turns on the shot at the end of the third quarter, the half-court shot, where basically Golden State was down. That puts them up at the end of the third quarter. I think that was the energy boost they needed to close out the fourth and move forward. I mean, that's kind of the vibe I got after that point. What would you say?
Actually, no, because it was a 1-point game at that point. When Jordan Poole hits that 3, it's a 1-point game. The game turned when Marcus Smart went unhinged because there's a period down the stretch, and this has been Boston's problem all year long. They're not a good clutch team. There's a period down the stretch where Marcus Smart gets a technical foul, an offensive foul, and flops, leading to a Klay Thompson three-pointer that ignited the crowd. One player caused all 3 of those plays. If you watch Game 5 again. Now, I will admit, after we won the championship, the Warriors Game 5 and Game 6 have been my favorite show on television. I must have watched both of them like 7 times to get just taking notes and getting ready. And I watched Game 5. If you follow that whole game, the Warriors and the Celtics were pretty much neck and neck the whole game until Marcus Smart came unhinged. Marcus Smart is 6'4", 220 pounds. If you watch that Klay Thompson play, Klay's on the three-point line, and Marcus Smart flops and slides 8 feet. You trying to tell me Klay Thompson is that strong that he can push you 8 feet and you're 220 pounds? And then Klay's wide open, and he can test the wind and shoot the 3, and it's a swish. That's what turned the game. And then in the next, I don't remember if it was before or after that, where Marcus Smart gets a technical foul and an offensive foul on Jordan Poole. Now, it was a little bit of a flop by Jordan Poole. I'll give him that. But One player was the centerpiece in all 3 of those plays in Game 5. And when you have a night when Steph Curry goes 0 from 3, you cannot lose that game. I don't care that you're on the road. Didn't matter in Game 4. Steph Curry showed up in Game 4. Didn't matter. And the Celtics played great that night. Besides Steph Curry. And Steph Curry's team played awful that night. The Warriors had no offense in Game 4. Didn't matter because Steph Curry stepped up. So when you go on the road in the playoffs and you're not a good clutch team, that is going to sink you every time. That's going to sink you every time. So that's why I think the game turned is when Marcus Smart decided to go unhinged and cause 3 plays down the stretch that gave the Warriors the advantage and extra possessions.
And that's interesting because Marcus, he was a defensive player of the year. He come in with a trophy. Everyone's like, all right, Marcus is going to be able to kind of, maybe hold Steph down. But obviously, no one can guard Steph in this series, basically. And he just had an off night in Game 5, as you said. Ray, would you say that, everyone was like pointing to Jason Tatum, like, Tatum choked in this series, but I would stack it up to more of just the inexperience of being in this situation. Like, it was his first NBA Finals. He was a first team all NBA. All the pressure was on him. He hasn't been on this stage yet. And I think, he might have folded under the pressure of the stage, but I wouldn't say he doesn't have the potential to be on the stage. But your first time there, I mean, you got to give him a little break here. Would you say that?
I mean, Jason Tatum, he's a good player and everything, stuff too. But, to me, everything comes to your first NBA final. You're leading the NBA Finals, playoffs in 95 turnovers. Right. And stuff like that. So you can tell he come on a hitch, and some of the plays he's trying to settle himself and trying to take over the game and not letting the game come to him. He's like forcing his game into the places where he needs to go, dribbling the ball, doing this. He's acting like he's more like a 6'7" point guard than what his position is at some of the key moments of the game. And then Smart, he shut down Curry some, but you can't shut Curry down the whole entire series. I'm sorry. Curry is one of those type of players that when he gets on a roll, he's going to roll. If he doesn't have a good shooting night, he's not going to have a good game. It's just one thing about Steph Curry you got to watch is that once he gets it going, then he's shooting all over the place. I mean, he can pull up. I mean, if he's anywhere in the stadium, he can make it. That's the thing. That's what they say about him. He steps on the court, anywhere on the court, he can make it. And if you watch some of his pregame warm-ups, he's sitting on the bench and shooting from the bench, or he's shooting from the corner of the baseline. I mean, it's just the way he is, and I mean, Smart is a good defensive player. Don't get me wrong, but you got to also think too. Tatum's first year, getting to the finals. The nucleus is not there. I mean, it's going to take a couple of trips, maybe 1 or 2 if we didn't get it all. But then you got also too, what college did he come out of? Duke. Duke's got that one little knack. Any player from Duke. They got 6 players that got NBA final championships. I mean, that's not very many. All the players they got put out there in the NBA. So I mean, you got to think too. Tatum, he was forcing stuff at certain points of the game. If you can watch it, and turnovers was like a forced turnover. I mean, you got to understand certain things that he's got to learn. He's got to learn how to when to take it, when not to take it. And same thing when Jordan first came in, when he's coming up. I mean, he scored 63 points and still didn't get nowhere, but he learned over time, and it takes time to learn when you're on the bright light, big stage, and then you played good the first, all the way up through the Eastern Finals, all the way into the NBA playoffs, and then you had one of your worst series, and I mean, it's just bright lights get on it. Certain kids perform on the bright lights. I mean. The biggest stage on the thing. I mean, everybody's tuning in now because you only got 2 teams. It's not like you got 4 or 5 teams out there and you got 2 different things. Eastern Conference Finals, you get there, or you got there. Boom, you made it. Get to the NBA Finals. Now let's see what they can do and what kind of pieces they got to put in there. I mean, if they play like they did the Eastern Conference Final in the finals, they could have had a better shot. But I mean, right now you're looking at force and stuff. Smart was getting like he said, was getting unhinged at certain points of the game, and all that fiasco and stuff like that. I mean, I sit there and watch all the series, and you can pinpoint certain things. Draymond Green would get.
Did he freeze up? He froze up.
Well, while we're waiting for him to come back, I do want to piggyback off of him with Jason Tatum because. Mm-hmm. He had a trend throughout the finals that is not good for any team trying to win a championship. Your star, your leader, cannot go for 4 points in the fourth quarter. 3 points, 2 points, 0 points in the fourth quarter. So I think what and maybe this is getting into one of our other segments, but one of the things that Boston needs in order to compete is they need a leader. And I think they have one, but Tatum's not the guy. It's Jaylen Brown. Look at Jaylen Brown in the fourth quarter. You can give him the ball, and you know you're going to get some production from Jaylen Brown in the fourth quarter. Jason Tatum, 4 points in the fourth quarter is inexcusable. And he'll make up excuses like, I never said I was a superstar. Well, you are. Apparently, you're the leader of this team. And when you have a leader of your team publicly stating his doubt in himself, you've got the wrong guy as the leader. You cannot have that from the leader of your team.
Yeah, I mean, do you think, and you know, we were going to touch on this later, but we're here now, so we'll just talk about it now. Do you think Boston, Boston needs a veteran on that team, like someone who's a little older, like, you know, like the way Miami, you know, brought in Kyle Lowry a little bit as a veteran leadership, someone of that nature, you know? I mean, I would think they would need someone who's been there, or at least someone who could, hey guys, calm down, because their coach is young too, a first-year coach, and even though the coach has the status, you know, but you know, as the question says, do you think a veteran is going to bring that team together, you know, and say, guys, this is how we win?
Well, they already have one. They have a leader. He's just not being given the team. Jaylen Brown's their leader. They have a veteran.
He's not a veteran.
He's just,
I mean, he's young.
Well, their veteran is Al Horford.
But Horford's not. I mean, he's not the leader of that team, you know?
Right. He's not the leader, but he is the veteran, the calming force, the guy who can grab everybody and go, listen, guys, we just calm down. He tried to be the one to calm Marcus Smart down because Al Horford knew those type of calls against him, that's not going to help the team get better, especially on the road, especially in closeout games, especially down the stretch. So Al Horford is that guy, is the guy to do that, and Jaylen Brown is their leader. Why they're not giving the team to Jaylen Brown, I don't know, because the team reflects the leader. Look at the Warriors for a second. Steph Curry has been a monster since Davidson. He's come into the league. He's set the league on fire. He's battled the adversity, and the team reflects that. They were down. What was it? They were down 14-2 at one point in Game 6 on the road. Then they were down 16-7 Game 6 on the road and went on a 21-point run to end of the first and beginning of the second. The Celtics aren't going to do that because their leader, Jason Tatum, he's just not that guy. If they give the team to Jaylen Brown and they move Tatum to 2 and they move Marcus Smart to 3, I don't know why he's bringing the ball up the court. They move him to the 3. I think they'll be fine. They have the pieces. They're just in the wrong space. I don't think they need to bring in somebody else, a Malcolm Brogdon or anybody else. They have what they need, personally, I feel. Right. It's just in the wrong spot.
Oh, definitely. And our producer and host of Jawin' and Ballin' on Wednesdays, Tony's in the house. What's up, Tony? How are you?
What's up, Tony?
Good, gents. How are y'all tonight?
Always good. Why don't you chime in on here what we're talking about, this Boston team? That, you know, they've got the talent, but they're definitely missing something. Would you say that?
Oh yeah, like Jonathan said, it's one of those. You know, Tatum has openly come out and said that he's not the leader, like he's not the guy, even though he has the talent to. He reminds me of one of those players that he could be a true number one, but he doesn't have the tenacity. He doesn't have the want to be a true number one. He is
Andrew
one of those
Wiggins.
players. Exactly, Andrew. And it's not a bad thing. It's one of those, you know, there are some guys, it's like, I have the talent, but I don't lead. And that's perfectly okay. And I think, you know, like Jonathan said, if that's going to be the case, they need to give it to Brown because, okay, give it to somebody who will lead, and then Tatum can be his supporting factor in his supporting role. Now, I do disagree in the fact of, yes, they have Al Horford, but he hasn't done much. Like, yeah, he's your veteran. He can kind of be your calming, but it does say a little bit more when you have a lot more of that championship pedigree. Like, say, and this is just purely hypothetical, not saying that he would work, but say Klay Thompson went to Boston. Like, he would have that different approach. Like, hey, guys, I've been here. I've done that. This is what you're going to experience. This is what you're going to do with this. This is how we close this out to finish. But again, much to Jonathan's point, they do have the pieces there, but again, they need to stop trying to force Tatum to be the guy when he A, doesn't want to be the guy, and B, he's not the guy, and that's okay. You can have those really good supporting role players that they don't have to be the one. They have the talent to be, but they don't want to be, and that's fine. But again, you need to maximize what you do have and realize, okay, Tatum, you're not the guy. You do what you got to do. Brown, here's your team. You go for it, man.
No, definitely. Well, it'll be interesting to see what Boston does in the offseason and how they move forward from this and how they jump on it and say, okay, we had it. We've got this close. What do we need to get there? It'll be interesting what Brad Stevens in the front office does. You know, Danny Ainge was always the guy getting draft picks, backloading, making deals. So we'll see what Brad Stevens does this year. It should be interesting. A lot of the talk this week was about Steph. Steph winning his 4th ring. All right, now he's got 4. He had 2 with Kevin Durant. He's got 2 without. And all the talk is, where does Steph rank in the laurels of NBA greats? You know, 4 rings, 1 Finals MVP, 2 NBA MVPs. It was both a unanimous seasonal MVP and a unanimous Finals MVP. So, Ray, I'll start with you. You and I are the same age. Where does Steph rank as far as the laurels of NBA greats?
You know, you still got your Jordan, you still got your LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Kill, Kobe, you know, Wilt, and then Bill Russell. I stick Steph Curry above Larry right now.
Really, above Bird?
Above Bird right now.
Defend that. I want to hear your defense on that.
Well, you know, Larry Bird was great back in the 80s and stuff like that. You know, coming in, him and Magic had that rivalry and stuff like that. But Curry has now improved himself more of a reliable of a shooter and became that leadership role for the Golden State Warriors. You got to understand, Warriors wasn't the pedigree of the NBA. Warriors couldn't make it to the playoffs. Warriors couldn't win the championship. Curry changed that. Curry came in and changed that whole organization around. He's there. He stayed there from the beginning to the end. I mean, right now, yeah, I mean, where has Golden State gone? They went from the bottom with Chris Mullins and all them, bringing Steph Curry in. Now they bought 4 out of the 6 championships in the NBA, 4 out of the 6 years. I mean, come on, Bird. He had that great Celtic team. He had Parrish. He had McHale. He had Dennis. He had Scott. You know, all those players, man, around him. But, you know, for him, for leadership wise, I mean, it was just the Splash Brothers, and then Draymond Green came in. I mean, then he had Poole this year. You had some players that wasn't even the NBA studs. I mean, look at they were complaining. Steph Curry and them won shows without Kevin Durant on the team. Then they won 2 with Kevin Durant on the team. So I mean, they've 4 championships, 2 Flash Brothers by themselves with Draymond Green, and then you had Durant. You know, for the back-to-back years. I mean, come on now. I mean, Steph Curry now has put himself in, literally put himself up there with these rings. And I mean, he's tied with LeBron now with 4.
That's fair.
So,
in the LeBron era too. That's fair.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And you know, and it's been an interesting conversation because everyone's been saying, you know, oh well, you know, you're trying to compare eras, and it's hard to compare eras. It's hard to compare this era of basketball to when Russell played and Wilt played, you know, and when Oscar and all those guys, you know. But Jonathan, you know, you're a younger guy. Where do you see Curry? Because you know your basketball history. So where do you see him?
I have him right around Larry Bird. You can make an argument for after or before Larry Bird. You can make an argument for after Larry Bird. But I definitely think he's top 10. Once you get past Larry Bird, it gets tough. I mean, you're talking Tim Duncan's, you're talking Michael Jordan, you're talking Magic Johnson. And as far as greatest point guards ever, I mean, Magic is in a class among himself. At the same time, Magic had Kareem? Did he not have Kareem?
Yeah, Kareem had James Worthy.
I mean, So you can make an argument for Steph being above Magic because he didn't have Kareem. He had KD for 2 years, and the second year they fell apart. Like KD had the injury, Klay Thompson had an injury, and they still almost won the championship. I mean, Curry makes that shot at the buzzer, we're talking overtime. We never know, So you can make an argument. It's tough. It's tough after Michael, LeBron, and Magic to really put Steph Curry in the Mount Rushmore, so to speak. You can make an argument for Bill Russell. He's got 11.
No, he's not Mount Rushmore. I mean, that's for sure. But the argument all week has been is he top 10, And the thing is, if he is top 10, he's probably 9 or 10, if that, because I mean
he's toward the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
I'll give him 8.
My list, and then I want to hear from Tony. My list, and this is in no particular order, is Jordan, Kareem, Kobe, Bill Russell, Will. Actually, and it's cool how you can have these players by one name. Jordan, Kareem, Kobe, Russell, Wilt, Bird, Magic, LeBron, and Duncan are my 9. And then that 10 spot to me is either Steph, Hakeem, Olajuwon, Jerry West, who was incredible for the Lakers and those back then, and even going back, and my father will argue this till the day he dies, Oscar Robertson, was, to me, my father says Oscar Robertson was one of the greatest ball players he ever saw. And even you could talk about Elgin Baylor in that conversation. But Tony, where do you put Steph at this time?
Yeah, I would probably put him right at 10. If I was to, probably right at 10, maybe even 11, because like you said, you could maybe switch him out. Like he's right there just on the outside. Now, a little bit of the LeBron critiquist wants me to put him above Bron just because he got 4 rings in 13 years. It's taken Bron 19, like 4 teams and 4 championships.
And a bubble. He needed a bubble too.
And
he needed 3 months off.
So I'm like, I almost want to do it, but I know the heat that will come with that if I do.
Well, if we say it enough, maybe Freddie will show up and defend LeBron.
Exactly.
You can make the argument. I mean,
exactly. I mean, it's one of those. He's really close to what, that all-time 3-point scoring title.
No, he broke it.
Yeah, he did. Okay, so he did break it. So I mean,
he's
right there. And you got to think about it. He's one of the few players, again, like Jordan, like Kobe, all of them. He won a chip with his original team. LeBron can't say that. Yeah, he went back to Cleveland, but he only did it once.
That's true.
He went to Miami. He won 2. And again, Steph has been there through the good and the bad. It was him and Klay when they first started. They were kind of meh. Then they get Draymond. Then they become this super team. Then they add KD. They become even better. And even after they lost KD, it's not like they were terrible. Now, they were terrible when they got injured.
They were.
But it's not like they
were terrible
right
after KD.
But even through all of that, you look at how well Steph was doing, even without all those players there. Like, he was still carrying this Warriors franchise. And again, he continued to do it literally throughout this entire series, even with Klay being like a shell of his former self throughout a majority of the playoffs. Draymond, again, continuing to be a good role supporter in what he does, but again, not doing anything crazy. Now, luckily, he did have Wiggins helping him. What's the other kid's name? I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Jordan Poole.
Yeah, Jordan Poole. With them, to me, this is why I would put him above LeBron. Curry makes it work with who he has. Curry didn't go out and say, I need you to get me this player, and this player, and then I can make it work. Steph said, this is what I got. Okay, I'll make it work. And that's exactly what it did. Even with the 2 original names that helped him win those first 3, he said, okay, Wiggins and Poole, no problem. Got it. And, ended up finishing. So I'd put him right up there at top 10. Bron may even have to sit at 11. I'm sorry. There are people who may be mad at me, but he might have to just for that.
I mean, man, you
quite,
made an argument for me. I'm moving him up now. That's a good point.
That's quite a good argument, and definitely valid points. And it's interesting how what you just said, and I just want to hear from Ray real quick on this. How Steph, with the original guys playing with young players, where as a LeBron, and this is going to turn into a LeBron bashing party once again, how he basically has to get these veterans and can't build with the youngsters, whereas Steph started as a youngster, now he's a vet, playing with vets, but bringing youngsters along the way and saying, I will watch me, I will carry you, I will bring you to a championship. Not like, oh, I need veterans. So, Ray, you've been one of the most outspoken guys against LeBron in this network. So I just want to hear your take on that.
Well, to me, you got to look at it this way. And I value everybody's opinion about LeBron James. LeBron can dominate somebody down in the low blows. LeBron can shoot a little bit of outside jumper. Not a good outside jumper, but he gets it down when he needs to. He's clutch in certain areas. But to me, Stephen Curry, he makes it a little bit easier for everybody else around him because he can shoot the deep threes. If you double team him, he can still pass the ball out of that double team, which gives him a little bit more of a factor. And then you got he says that if you look at the building blocks, the way Stephen Curry comes in, his leadership role is, if you look at him, he doesn't get vocal in front of everybody. He brings them to the sidelines, or he walks back with him and talks to them nicely. He don't get in their face and say, "Hey, you need to do this," but he helps them. And I don't know if you've seen the interview with Poole. He said that when he came to the team, Stephen Curry came to him and told him, you have game, you play your game, you play the way you need to play. We're going to get you the ball. The system is made for everybody to shine into what they need to do. And they became role players. Look at Wiggins. He came in, he was a hothead in Minnesota. He was a very hothead. He came in, guess what? Curry got a hold of him. And then look at him. He's not a hothead no more. He passed the ball. He plays in his position. And everybody plays that role. See, LeBron wants to get to everybody. See, to me, LeBron's leadership is he wants everybody to be there. He wants all these all-stars. He wants everybody to, be these super athletes and stuff like that, because that's the only way he can win. He can't win with his leadership role. If you look at it when Cleveland didn't have all those superstars, what happened to them? He would get on them, and then everybody backs away from him. Look at Jordan. When Jordan had all those players, and what he did, and then nobody knows, but Michael Jordan, when he practiced 100% like he's playing a game. He treats his practice like a game. LeBron really doesn't. If like the days ago of LeBron and the difference of the mentality of these two, Michael Jordan and LeBron, and Stephen Curry's now have picked up Michael Jordan's attitude a little bit. Because, Steve Kerr said he comes to practice. He doesn't practice like he's going to, he wants to practice like he's going to play in a game. That's his mentality. That's the mentality. That's the difference of a real leadership and quality of a leadership than what LeBron had. All these superstars, he don't want to have to get in their face and all this stuff because everybody's supposed to be these high caliber superstars. And how many times have you seen a really superstar team really take care of a game? You got too many superstars. You got too many hotheads. And that's the problem. And with the Golden State, the mixture of the Splash Brothers, Draymond Green, and then you got your role players. And that's how a team should be built.
Exactly.
It's called the pool party now. It's called the pool party.
The pool party. And they are a fun team to watch. And we're going to jump on something you just said, Ray, about the system. We're going to talk about the system of Golden State. And we're going to, after this commercial break, we're going to come back and talk about, is Klay and Draymond Hall of Famers because of the system they're in, or would their skill set work anywhere else and would they have the same success? We're going to talk about that after this commercial. We'll be right back.
Get ready. This summer, the Arena League Sports is on ASAP Network. Tune in live on either the Tiki Live or Roku app, as well as your smart home TV.
All right, we are back, man. That Lele home looks nice, man. I got to get me one of them cribs out in Arizona, that's for sure. But anyway, welcome back, everybody. So Klay and Draymond have had, the same. They both have 4 rings. They both have had key roles on this team. Obviously it has been Steph's team. Even when KD was there, some people said, "Oh, it became KD's team." I disagree. It's always been Steph's team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But are Klay and Draymond successful because of the system they're in, or will their numbers and careers project them as Hall of Famers on their own merit? I'm gonna start with you, Jonathan, because you are a fan of this team. You've seen this team come up, from nothing to here. So what's your take on this?
Hall of Fame would be tough. And at the same time, if they were in the Hall of Fame, nobody would argue it. But you
Right.
can make an argument either way, because when we think Hall of Fame, normally we think statistics. And if we're going to think statistics, Draymond's automatically disqualified because his statistics are nowhere near where they would be Hall of Fame. But his value to the team and his importance to the team, you can put him in there, because if you take Draymond out, and we've had stretches in various seasons where Draymond was injured, and you saw the team and how they performed defensively and how they performed offensively, Draymond is pivotal for the offense and the defense. Like, he's one of the guys that makes the system go. So I think between the two of them, the way that they rank Hall of Fame now, Klay Thompson would probably make it in before Draymond would make it in. However, I don't know if we can reshape the way the Hall of Fame votes happen, because if we do that for Draymond just to get him in there, we're going to have to do it for a lot of guys just to get them in there, because Draymond he'll score 4 points and it seems like he scores 40 or makes 40 happen with what he does for that team. So for Draymond, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and he won't like it. Now, and I'm a fan. I've been a fan. I watched Draymond at Michigan State. I watched Klay Thompson at Wazoo. Like, I've been a fan. I don't see Draymond making it in. Klay Thompson is going to be interesting, because I think nowadays Hall of Fame, the committees kind of become prisoners of the moment. Yes. And if we're looking at the moment, Klay shouldn't make it in, because the most recently he hasn't been looking good. Steph pretty much had to put the team on his back by himself, and we're not going to argue about Steph going into the Hall of Fame. They should just put him in and just get it over with before he leaves the game. Yeah. But the way that the Hall of Fame thing has been going now, you can make an argument for both of them, just based on how they've looked coming down the stretch.
No, very true. And it's interesting because you get into the discussion of, they each have 4 rings, but then you get into the discussion, like, take a player like Robert Horry. Robert Horry was a great role player on a lot of those different championship teams, different eras and stuff like that. Oh, they called him Big Shot Rob, whatever. But, he's not in the Hall. But as you said, it could be a numbers thing. Ray, you're an old school guy like me. The Hall of Fame has become sort of the Hall of Very Good. It's not really the Hall of Fame anymore. So, Ray, where do you stand with this? You're muted. Can't hear you, Ray.
Everybody says certain things about Draymond Green and stuff like that, but you gotta think about his role is in this team. His role is as a facilitator. Everything. If they need tough defense, he gives it to them. If he needs a tough rebound, he gets it to him. If he needs to set a screen, he gives it to him. If he needs to hit a 3-pointer, sometimes he gives it to him. If he gets him down the low post, he gives it to him. But now, if you look at it this way too, you got Dennis Rodman, who was only a rebounder. He got into the Hall of Fame. You got to look too. He got rebounds and stuff like that. I pulled a very interesting thing of this basketball, thing. You can compare players to certain players. So I took a random and I went after Draymond Green and Dennis Rodman, because Rodman is all Hall of Famer. He plays the defense. He plays the mind games. He plays everything some sort of like what Draymond does. Rodman only has him on rebounds. Draymond Green has Rodman on everything else.
Probably
because he has assists. He has assists. He has a scoring. He has rebounds. And if you really want to put it pinpoint, Draymond Green did average also in double figures in rebounds too. So you got to look at it that way too. And if you look at the role of the team, the system he's got, Curry set it up that same way as Chicago Bulls team set it up. I mean, he learned from the great. He learned from Phil Jackson by playing. He learned from Michael Jordan the way his mind thought was coming in. And if you look at some of the similarities here, they run about the same, almost the same offense, but a little bit of strategy of Kerr's. Kerr's a 3-point shooter, so his more focused on that 3-point shooting. But if you look at what Draymond Green is, he does everything what Dennis Rodman did for the Chicago Bulls and what he did with Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
Kerr also came out of the Chicago Bulls system.
Exactly. So that should be interesting. Tony, and it's funny, we've all the last, 8 years the Golden State's been there 6 out of the 8. We've seen how this team's developed. We've seen how their system developed based around these 3 players, But if you think about it, usually when you have a grouping of players that played together this long and put together this many championships, they're probably all going to get into the Hall. Would you say that?
Yeah, and one thing I actually want to ask everybody, because we're talking about Klay and Draymond. There's another name other than Steph that actually he also won his 4th championship with the Warriors, and he's literally been a journeyman everywhere. And my question to you, gentlemen, real quick: does Andre Iguodala deserve to go into the Hall of Fame because he just won his 4th because he came back with the Warriors? And some people may be mixed on it, kind of like Jonathan said. If he does, okay, you can see it, but if he doesn't, you can also see it type thing. Again, Andre and Draymond and not as much with Klay. Andre and Draymond are, again, they're the role players, they're the big role supporters. And I say that because he comes from Michigan State with Tom Izzo, and we know Tom Izzo doesn't really make, individual superstars that are going to go and dominate your game. Tom Izzo is very much about that team concept, like, yes, you can all individually be great, but I want you to perform better as a cohesive unit than I do you trying to be an individualist, which, again, Draymond shows that doing the little things that other people don't do. Like Ray said, if you need him to be defensive, he'll go be defensive. If you need him to go get a 3, that's a maybe. If you need him to go get a rebound, he'll get you that rebound. So he'll do that. And like Jonathan said, it's one of those. It feels like they're a little bit more, we kind of have to because it's a moment. Like if I had to rank them in order of who's going to get in first, it's probably going to be Steph. Then it's going to be Klay because they're going to be like, oh, well, Steph can't do it without the other half of the Splash Brothers. So Klay's got to go in. And then probably, Draymond and Iggy at the same time because of what they were able to do in the supporting factor. But again, if they don't, I could see why, but again, they're kind of like, the multiple Rodmans to Steph's Jordan, basically. Right. Like again, they could or they couldn't. Like Kurt, like he said right now, if they don't, last couple of years, y'all ain't been the same Klay and Draymond that we've seen. Steph, you're consistent. Klay and Draymond, not so much. Iggy, you've been on like 8 teams since that 2-year span, and then you came back.
Right. No, that's an interesting take with Iguodala. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, he's got 4 now too. But again, he falls in that Robert Horry category of, or the John Sally category, going back if you think about it. That whole sort of thing. Well,
I don't think Iggy makes it in.
Quick. You don't think Iggy
makes it in? I don't think Iggy makes it in. Klay Thompson, really his saving grace is he's coming off of 2 catastrophic injuries. That's his saving grace. Draymond, Draymond's been the same Draymond.
Right.
And Steph, coming off of his own catastrophic injury that seeded him for the season, and to come back like this, it's unbelievable. It's unreal.
Oh, definitely. Well, let's move on to the coach, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr takes over this team from Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson's last year with this team, they won 51 games. So everyone was saying, oh, Steve Kerr walked into like the Garden of Eden with these players, that he got right into a gold mine. But still, you have to manage people. You have to manage personalities in this league, So Steve Kerr's got 4 rings as a coach. He's got 5 rings as a player. So I'm going to start with you, Tony. Where does Steve Kerr now sit as far as NBA coaches? Because, if you think about it, there's not many coaches that have 4 rings that have had success with the team for this long of time, gotten the 6 finals in 8 years. Obviously the 2 years wasn't was with the injuries. Then the 1 year they lost to Toronto, they had a lot of injury issues. And then the one LeBron and Kyrie year. But where do you rank Steve Kerr at this point? Because he's definitely made a mark, and he's definitely up there as far as coaches go.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me a little bit and again, I don't mean it in the way that I'm going to say it, and I'll kind of explain it. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Bill Russell in the fact of he now has 9 championships, and people are going to look at that statistically and say, yes, he is an all-time great. And if you think about it realistically, he is, because if you look at coaching in any type of sport, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, whatever, how many coaches are ever the head coach of a team for as long as he has been the coach of the Warriors? Greg Popovich is probably one of the few that he's been the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs since like their conception. It seems like he's just been there forever.
It's like him, Spoelstra, and Popovich are the 3 longtime coaches.
Yeah. So if you look at Steve and the fact that he not only won without an all-time great player in KD, he won with him, he made it work, and then they continued to win even after. And the fact that they've still managed to keep the team together and that they were able to win a 4th now, through all the trying times. Because you think about it, if it's probably not just Steph's attitude and personality as a person, if he doesn't have a good coach, do you think Steph Curry stays there those 2 years that they're basically in the dumpster? Like think about it. Would LeBron stay there?
No.
LeBron would be gone. And at the same time, you can't really blame him, because if you look at it, it's like, okay, well, what's your biggest prerogative? Do you want to continue to build a team? Do you want to have success with what you had, or do you want to try to win now, or do you even want just a crap ton of money up front, because somebody's going to be willing to pay you a ton of money? So for Steve as a coach, and I know a lot of people are going to probably give the credit to wasn't it Mark Jackson that was the first GM of the team that kind of built all this in play. So a lot of people are going to give him the credit, which I get, 100% get that. But again, it says a lot for the fact that he's been the coach now for 13, 14 years. And he's been able to have this type of success with these players. And again, you've kept your same core of guys, which is hard to do, of keeping your same big 3, have continued success with them. And again, adding in other role players, taking a chance on Wiggins, taking a chance on Poole, and saying, hey, I can get the best out of these guys because the players I have currently, and I put that much faith into my guys that they're going to make it work as well. So to me, it kind of like Steph, I would put him up there in top 10 as far as all-time great coaches.
Interesting. All right, obviously, Jonathan, I'm going to come to you last because this is your squad, but I want to hear from Ray. Ray, you've seen a lot of coaches come through this league, a lot of good coaches, great coaches, and crappy coaches, but where do you put Steve Kerr at this point? You're muted again. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I got to keep forgetting that. But anyway, so, I mean, if you look at the league itself, and you had all the great coaches come in, you had Phil Jackson, you had Popovich, you had Pat Riley, you had Red Auerbach, and, they were going through the shows and stuff like that. But to me, I think Steve Kerr has boosted himself in that top 5 role as of right now, because he brought Golden State, you talk about Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson was a good coach. He gave him, but you look at the 2012 to 2014, the team looked like he had a ceiling under it with him. And then Steve Kerr came in and he incorporated some of his stuff that he learned in Chicago. Some of the stuff he learned, if you notice some of the stuff too, he brought some of Arizona Wildcats when he played for the Arizona Wildcats. Mm-hmm. He brought some of that offense into this with the triangle. It's not they don't play the strictly triangle. They play these roving. If you look at, Draymond Green, he starts on the high key sometimes. That's the Arizona. When Steve Kerr played Arizona, that's Lou Olson's high key post plays. That he didn't have post players at the time, so he had Steve Kerr post up and the roll up in the top, and that's what Draymond did. And if you look at it, they inverted the triangle offense. They inverted it. They didn't play like Michael and them, put the guard down and post up. They played from the outside to the inside. Stephen Curry, that's the thing. Steve Curry, he's innovative. He's got a great leadership. He learned great leadership in days of Chicago. If you look at Michael Jordan and Steve Kerr had that altercation in that practice, and then if you look on the bench in that final when they told him that, hey, if this guy comes out, I'll pass you the ball, you're gonna make the shot. You know, him and Michael Jordan. If you really looked at some of the videos they had, him and Michael Jordan had conversations on the bench. Hey, this is what I'm gonna do. If he goes here, I'm gonna throw the ball here. You're gonna make the shot. And he learned over the time. He learned, and if you look at it too, Phil Jackson didn't just coach him. He gave him books to read, you know, psychological, you know, his time and stuff. You know, I looked at Steve Curry was going to be a good coach anyway, which way he went, if he went to college or if he went to high school or anything like this. This is his natural ability. But I think he's a top 5 coach now with this win right here, because if you look at it, he did it. Yeah, he had 2 wins with Durant on the team. He had 2 with non-Durant, you know, on the team. So, I mean, you do it. And adversity. Draymond Green tore his ACL. So did Klay Thompson. Look at that. Look at the one that LeBron came back from the 7 games down. Everybody talking about it, but nobody's talking about the key thing. Draymond Green got suspended that one game to turn that whole series around. Mm-hmm. I mean, LeBron turning the whole series around was that one thing that turned the whole series around was when Draymond Green got ejected and then he couldn't play the next game, you know, and that really turned. And then Steve Kerr has really found himself, you know, going through adversity and now triumphing back to a title after these adversities he had. So I think he's a top 5 right now.
No, he definitely is. He's been coaching for 8 years now. He has 429 wins, a 682 winning percentage, you know, an average of 53 wins a season. I mean, those are insane numbers, Jonathan. I mean, that's you remember this team was lousy, and then, you know, they built themselves up. The GM built the team up, and then Kerr was like, it seemed like the deciding factor with his motivation, his background with coaching with Popovich, you know, playing under Phil Jackson. It was because there was talk when he signed with the Warriors that he was, you know, the Knicks were looking at him because Phil Jackson was over there, but he said, no, I'm going out to the West Coast. And obviously a career move for Coach Kerr.
Yeah. There's a point where, like, we can all think of good coaches in the NBA. We can all think of some good coaches. They normally make it to the playoffs and they'll lose in the second or the conference finals rounds, right? Oklahoma City had a couple of runs there with what was his name? When they had Durant and Westbrook and Harden. Yeah. Some of those teams. But you don't really latch onto great coaches. There's a few great coaches. And Steve Kerr's really been kind of overshadowed by Steph Curry a little bit, because Steph Curry is so fantastic that he attracts all the attention. But we really got to start talking about Steve Kerr up in that top 2 or 3 when it comes to coaches. Like, seriously, because since he took over the Warriors team, when they make the playoffs, they make the finals. This isn't just the first, second round exit. This isn't Luka and Jason Kidd. When the Warriors made the playoffs, when they're whole, they made the finals, deep into the finals. Like, you got to knock them out in 6 or 7 games. They're not getting gentlemen swept or swept in the finals. So, and that starts with the culture. And the culture is set by the coach. And Steve Kerr has been instrumental. Wherever he has gone, greatness has seemed to follow, you know, even when he was an announcer. He was a great announcer. And then they said he was going to be a coach. I was like, because I remember Mark Jackson with Steph Curry. And, you know, they beat Dallas that one year and then they were out. Well, once Steve Kerr took over, we're looking around like, where'd these guys come from? Like, Klay Thompson was good, but he wasn't this good. Like, Steph Curry, we knew him for having glass ankles. He wasn't this guy. That starts with the coach and the defense. That's the most impressive thing is this Warriors defense. It's unreal sometimes when you watch them defensively, how they're that good defensively. This year, it was Boston was the #1 defense. Watch that series over again. And you tell me what was the more tenacity defense. because it was not the Celtics, it was the Warriors, and that has been something that has followed them since Steve Kerr took over, is that defensive intensity and that shooting. We really got to look at Steve Kerr, and I'm trying to. I mean, Phil Jackson's up there. Popovich is really up there more so for the run than for really winning. Besides when he had Duncan and David Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
who else? Who else has been a better coach than Steve Kerr? Who else has made the playoffs and made the finals every time they made the playoffs and deep into the finals? Like, I can't think of another person besides Steve Kerr and Jackson that have done things like that. So we really got to look at him as, top 3. Like Ray was saying,
yeah.
he's up there.
No, he's definitely up there. He's definitely a motivator of men. He's good. He's the right voice for that squad because he's not that intense in your face coach. He knows when to raise his voice. He knows how to motivate his players, and he's got that relation. And he proved it, especially in this finals when he sat down Draymond Green in the fourth quarter of that game. It was game 4. Game 4, he sat him down. It was game 4. He sat Draymond down.
Game 4, yeah.
Game 4. I mean, that to sit down a veteran who's already won you 3 rings. In game 4, when you're down 2-1, I mean, coaches got respect, definitely mad respect for that.
I'll tell you this too, Yoel. Actually, all of you guys. I know it looks like Steve Kerr is not intense. Anthony Edwards had an interview where they were working out, and I think it was right before he was drafted. And the Warriors were interested in him, in Anthony Edwards, who was balling out in the playoffs with Minnesota. The Warriors were interested in him. Go and listen to what Anthony Edwards said that Steve Kerr told him. Steve Kerr is very intense. Told him he wasn't working hard enough. He's got to be better if we're going to select him number 3. Steve Kerr.
Oh, wow.
So it looks like he's not intense. I'm telling you he is. And It really makes sense when you think about his path into this position. He's had nothing but intensity with him. So
no doubt.
He is intense.
No doubt. All right. Well, I think I know the answer to this final question topic I want to talk about before we get to our final take. But, so the Warriors, they're obviously, in my opinion, and I think you guys would agree, we would consider them a dynasty. 6 finals in 8 years, 4 rings in those 8 years, pretty much have dominated the league, been the face of the league. Obviously, LeBron's been the face of the league, but the Warriors as a team been the face of the league, a fun team to watch, not a team that people have been like, oh, these guys again. I mean, people have go to the sets to watch this team play. Now, Jonathan, I know your answer, but I'll let you give. Oh, there's your cat, Tony, right behind you. Jonathan, I know your answer, so I'll just let you just give your quick take on this Warriors dynasty, and then we'll get to everybody else.
Yeah, it is a dynasty. The way that I look at it, though, it's what happens when you have your best player, and then what happens when the team reforms. So we had one version of the Warriors where they were young and fast and, the super team, the Draymond, Klay, Steph Curry, where they were just outrunning everybody. Leandro Barbosa, we had David Lee, we had Andrew Bogut. They were just outrunning everybody in transition. And then they got KD. And the whole team seemed to change. It was fast, it was intense, but it was different. And then they lost KD, and they had 2 years, and they kind of had to rebuild or reboot. And now you look at the team, and like it's not if we can foul them in transition, we can stop the run. Doesn't matter what you do, Steph Curry's going to drop 40 on you. So the evolution of this team, I think, makes it more of a dynasty, and the fact that they've won while evolving does. I mean, that solidifies the dynasty. And the teams that they went through. I mean, you go through Luka. You go through John Morant. You go through Boston on the road this is an organization that they said a long time ago when they won. I think they won the second one when they won the second one with KD, or first year with KD, but the second championship for them. That they said they had the organization to set the gold standard for a while. And nobody believed Bob Myers when he said that, or I think it was Jerry West who said that.
Right.
And now we're looking at him now. Looks like he was right. So absolutely a dynasty. And we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, no, definitely. I mean, and you compare them the last dynasty in this league was San Antonio, who won in 1999, 2003, 2005, 2007, and then had a 7-year absence before winning again in 2014. But if again you look from 99 to 2007, 4 rings in 8 years, very comparable to this Golden State team. So Ray, is Golden State a dynasty after I brought that fact to the table?
To me, Golden State is a dynasty. After you win 3 and you won 4, the 4th one solidified you as a dynasty. I mean, that's the way I was brought up and going through sports. My high school, we became a dynasty after we won 4. The coach didn't want to let us say it after 3. He waited till we won 4. After the 4th one of my senior year, we won the state title in football, and we, it was the first time anything out of my county we won. So, I mean, our coach considered us dynasty after 4, and that's the way I made my standards up. When Chicago won their 4th, they became a dynasty. Everybody said, oh, no, they're a dynasty after 3. No, the gold standard for me was always 4. If you win 4, you became a dynasty. I mean, you can look at Buffalo Bills. They became a dynasty of losers. They lost 4 straight, Super Bowls. So I mean, everything's in 4 for me. They became a dynasty of losers. Buffalo Bills. So I mean, the Warriors, if you look at it too, and the interesting thing too, when somebody broke down this dynasty for the Warriors and stuff like that, they look at the estimated retirement age. Steph Curry, they said Steph Curry is going to retire at 39. Thompson's going to retire at 35. Green's going to retire at 36. They still got 4.5. Curry still got 4 years and 9 months left. Thompson's got 3 years and 5 months left. They predict this. Green still got 4 years and 3 months, if this is all true. But I mean, look at it. Golden State could go back again next year and win it again.
Oh.
I mean,
and don't let Jonathan Kuminga hit off and Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
They're just coming behind them.
And that's interesting. Their ages are interesting, Ray. And that's a good point because let's say for argument's sake they win next year. They all want to go for 6 and tie Jordan with 6 because that's the number in everybody's head. Because Kobe's got 5, I think Shaq's got 4 or 5, but no one, Jordan's got 6. I mean, Jordan's the modern age. Obviously Russell's got 11, but it was a different league back then. But Jordan's got 6. So I think if they win next year, they can make another run because they've got enough youth on this team. The biggest thing, Tony, I think, holding this team back is going to be the salary cap. But I just looked at the numbers, and it's ugly. Those numbers are ugly for next year.
They can take the luxury tax.
Yeah, it's already.
Yeah, and it's going to suck. But I will say the Warriors, I think, are a little bit different because, again, all these players have had opportunities. If they wanted to leave, they have had opportunities. They could leave at any point. And I don't know if they'll do that. I think some of these players, some of the younger guys, maybe, but even then, if I'm them, be like, hey, I'll take less money, do kind of the Tom Brady thing, take less money in order to, continue to win rings. And that's why I consider them a dynasty. I know a lot of people have argued, well, they didn't three-peat back to back to back. That's hard to do in any sport. And there's only been a handful of teams that have ever done that ever. And to me, no matter what the sport is, a dynasty is a continued period of success and a continued period of winning. And Jonathan can attest this because he's a huge Warriors fan. For how many years has the NBA had to go through the Bay? Like how many years?
Recently, like 8.
Yeah, 8 years. 8, and even with the LeBrons, even with when Kawhi Leonard was the person to go to, even with Giannis, even with all these other great superstars that have come through this, Golden State has continued to win and continue to be a success. They have 4 out of 6, and like Jonathan said, every time they're in the playoffs, they're going to the finals. They may not win, but they're going to the finals. So to me, yes, the Warriors are a dynasty. I think a lot of people that argue this are mainly Lakers fans that just don't want to admit it. That's okay.
Celtics fans.
Celtics fans are like, no, they're not a dynasty. Okay, whatever y'all say to help you sleep at night, that's you. But yes, they are.
Your 18 banner shirts away. It's okay. Maybe next year.
That's a great point. That is a great point. Awesome. All right, I want to move on to our final take of the night, guys. This has been an amazing show. Just exactly what I hoped it would be. And just thank you all for everything you guys have brought to the show. Let's see. Ray, I'll have you go first time. What's your final take of the night?
Well, my final take is going to be a little different because we're bringing the ASAP Wrestling Hour back on Wednesday night. We're moving from Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central Time, and 7 p.m. Pacific Time. And you'll see Chris Pretty Boy Robinson. Yeah, you got William, you got me, and you got Nate the Great all going to come back, and we're going to have a show. And we're going to change it around a little bit. It's going to be more of a round table type show and going to be a little bit more interactive with the fans and stuff like that. If they can ask questions, we'll answer the questions. And then, because most wrestling shows you see on here is all doing highlights of AEW, doing highlights of Raw. We'll mention that, but we won't go like segment by segment, each thing, break it down. Our fans want to be more of a interactive and going with old school with new school and asking questions and stuff like that. So it's going to be more of an interactive base show this time around. So that's coming back this Wednesday.
All right, so Wednesday is at 10. The wrestling show is going to be back. That's awesome. Ray, I know you are a huge wrestling guy, so I know you're anchoring that, so that's pretty awesome. Jonathan, what you got for me?
I have to say it. I was wrong about the Avalanche. I missed game 1, but game 2 I caught, and this team is real. Man, I wasn't ready. I think the Avalanche, looking at these last couple of games, Avalanche might win the Stanley Cup.
Well, they got to go into Tampa still and win, so we'll see what happens. But 7-0, yeah.
They can do it. They can do it. Like, this is the first team that I've looked at where I'm just like, wow, Tampa might get swept. Like, they had no answer for Colorado on the road. They had no answer. And I was just, I was wrong. If you bring me back, do a JK was wrong segment. So I was wrong.
That was pretty crazy. All right, Tony, our awesome producer and always contributor. Thank you for all you've done for this show, Tony, this whole season. Tony, what you got for me?
I'm gonna kind of shock everybody because I'm gonna go into now. I'm in the off season kind of for sports because now I'm waiting for my next favorite thing to kick off, and that's college football. I'm gonna make a Super Bowl prediction right now. I'm gonna be willing to bet I'm wrong, but I'm gonna throw it out there. The very first big game that we have this college season is going to be Texas versus Alabama. I'm calling the upset. I'm going to say Texas walks away with the dub.
Ooh, where is that game?
That is in Texas.
In Texas. In Austin or in Dallas?
I think Austin.
Oh, wow. In Austin.
Good question.
It's already sold out.
Good question,
Yoel. Wow. That's quite the prediction. Well, my final take is just a big thanks to everybody for an incredible second season of this show. This show started last March of 2021. This is the second season we've done. We're going to go on a summer hiatus after tonight. I've got a steady Monday night gig that I'm going to be doing all summer long, but we're going to come back for football season, and we're going to bring it like we do. Amazing for the third season. Football season is always great on this show. We have so much amazing stuff. We're going to try to maybe do like a summer special, like a football preview kind of pre-tape kind of thing. But I just want to thank everybody for watching, supporting the show, everyone who's contributed, you guys tonight. Jai, Mike from the OC, everyone who jumps in, and throws their 2 cents. And it's just been so much fun. It's been a dream of mine to host a sports talk show. And the fact that I've gotten to do it for 2 years now is just amazing. And this network is really giving me an opportunity, and we're just going up and up and reaching for the stars. And I just cannot wait for next year to see what this network's going to bring. So everyone just stay tuned. We're going to have other shows in this time spot. And then come September, we're going to be back with a brand new season and bring it. So everybody, thank you all so much. Thanks, guys, for an amazing show tonight. And be safe out there, and we will see you guys. But stay tuned to the network. Real Talk is next. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we're making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so time for lace.